Hello, my name is Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and welcome to another video analysis from 2014 Worlds. For this match, we have our very first match of Worlds, Edward Gaming versus Samsung White. This is the opening match of the group stages, and so let's get into picks and bans. Once again, this is a video analysis, not a shoutcast, so there's going to be plenty of spoilers, and I assume you've watched the match already. So here we go. Going in, we have very generic bans. It's the first time teams have seen each other. Yasuo, Kassadin, Twitch Rise. Everyone's going on Research Knowledge. Yasuo is a very good ban against Samsung White. They're extremely strong with them, as they are with Twitch and Rise. Edward Gaming, they love to play Rise. Ban it out. Our first pick is actually going to be Maokai from Edward Gaming. They're taking one of the top 3 trifecta, and this is also the first time we will see the other of the top 3, Rumble, coming in for Samsung White. I'm going to take a moment to talk about Maokai Rumble match, because this is the first time we see it in Worlds, the first time we've seen it in almost years, and there's a very important aspect to this fight. Rumble is clearly a counter pick to Maokai. However, Maokai really needs to just do one thing in this matchup. He needs to buy an early Negatron Cloak. Negatron Cloak provides more magic resist than Rumble gets from his 2 primary items, than the magic penetration Rumble gets. Rumble building Sork Shoes and Haunting Guise gives him 30 magic pen, whereas a Negatron Cloak is giving 40, and it's way cheaper, 700 gold versus about 2600 gold. An early Negatron Cloak from Maokai simply negates the 2 core items of Rumble. And though it does slow down Host Rod of Ages, the difference it makes in lane and in the team fights is huge, especially considering Samsung White's team is building Zilean, Rumble, Tristana, and Nami. There are 4 very big sources of magic damage in the early mid game. Going back into the picks and bans, we did see Zilean Kha'Zix picked up, 2 very big players in the group stages, though Zilean falls out of favor later on in Worlds, simply because he really doesn't bring that much, and there's some very hard counters, as you'll see in some other matches. On Edward Gaming side, we have Thresh and Lucian, Lifesteal lane, as everybody knows. Very strong, huge bully lane. They generally win almost every matchup they go into. However, Samsung White have a great response to this. They pick Tristana Nami, and as the match goes in, I'll talk about the bot lane and why Tristana Nami is so good against Thresh Lucian. Rounding out Edward's Gaming's team is Jarvan and Orianna, and now we see that they have a full-on engage composition. After having seen Zilean, Kha'Zix, Rumble, Tristana, you have all the major players of Samsung White's team. I would have more liked to see less of an all-in engage and some poke. Maybe a Jace instead of Orianna would have been great, because Rumble and Zilean are very strong at denying engagements. Zilean preventing the one shot of your carry, and Rumble just splitting up your team and dealing massive damage when you try and get that all-in engage. Picking Jarvan against Rumble has some issues. You can lock yourself in on Equalizer, tons of damage. Still, he's not a bad choice, and working with Maokai, they should be able to shut him down. Samsung White's team, that final pickup of Nami really solidifies them as an anti-engage team. They have really built their team out to counter Edward Gaming. Rumble Equalizer stops the engagements, huge, toss it on top of Maokai, Jarvan. If you can hit Thresh 2, ends up dealing massive amounts of damage while providing tons of peel. Zilean prevents Tristana from dying instantly, and it also allows Kha'Zix to be a bit more of a front lane bully. Nami Tidal Wave also produces massive disengage. As soon as Jarvan tries to go in with Maokai, she throws out the Tidal Wave. Samsung White can then disengage and then return and fight. Let Kha'Zix get the poke, as he's really the only poke in the entire game. Though he's not the strongest poker, being the only one, it does give Samsung White the control in the face-offs. So, going into team compositions and win strategies, Edward Gaming have to fight the 5v5. Their team is huge for it. Orianna ball onto Maokai or Jarvan into Shockwave is huge amounts of damage and great control. If they can grab, say, Rumble, knock him out before he's able to ultimate, kill Tristana before he can get away, get that lockdown. Jarvan goes in, Maokai goes in. You just have to get somebody stuck and kill them in time so they can't get out. If EDG are able to hit multiple people with their wombo combo and the ball delivery system, then they should win the 5v5 fights. The big problem that they have to worry about is that Samsung White is a disengaged team. If EDG do not get the perfect engage, they're going to lose the team fight because Samsung White will kite them out and then return with relative safety, allowing Tristana to clean up, Kha'Zix to get his resets. There's plenty that EDG has to make sure. If they can get a flanking engage, that would be even better, forcing Samsung White into an even worse position, making them unlikely to retreat. EDG should also really watch out for fighting in the jungle, as Rumble and Nami can easily cover entire corridors there, and they should really focus their fights around Dragon, around Baron, and in the lanes. Samsung White, what they need to do is they really need to stay safe in these lanes and not fall behind. If they fall behind EDG, you got a potential double tank line coming at you, followed by Orianna protection and Thresh semi-tanky support. There's a good solid front line there that could just push their way into Samsung White's, live through Rumble's damage, and just basically block off Tristana while Lucian cleans up people. If they fall behind too early, they're not going to be able to use the mid-game power of Rumble and Dragon objectives, as well as the Zillion power, essentially providing a 6th man in the mid-game. So that's what they need to do at the start. Stay strong, not lose, otherwise they just fall behind and they can't disengage long enough to take out EDG. Assuming they go even, they really need to turn their focus onto early dragons, especially with Rumble. We all know he's extremely strong there. Use Zillion to keep up Trist, to keep her in positions. Let Kha'Zix use his evolved Void Spikes to deal poke around the objectives, and always stay back and be ready to run away. The moment EDD engage, disengage, be safe as you can, wait for Maokai ultimate to wear off, wait for Jarvan ultimate to stop displacing everyone. Just get away from the engage and then turn it on its heels. Let Kha'Zix poke as you chase them, Tristana go for the cleanup, get the resets. That's it. As the match progresses, Tristana is the late game ability of Samsung White and is a great one. She takes a long time to scale up, that's why we don't see her too often in the later matches of Worlds. But in this case, they do have Zillion and Rumble providing the mid-game power. If the match goes on long, it's really going to become who's stronger, Tristana or Maokai. And then if Maokai does end up stronger, Orianna will eventually get to the point where she can almost one-shot Tristana. So both teams have good late game, both teams have decent mid game. A lot of it's going to be about execution and this laning phase. Whoever comes out ahead in the laning phase is really going to be the ones able to come out ahead in the game. I'm going to talk about the bot lane. Lucian Thresh into Tristana and Nami. It's really difficult for Thresh and Lucian. They have the ability from level 1, level 2 to really take the all-in fights. Thresh gets a hook or a good flay, Lucian goes straight on to Tristana, and they just push hard at level 1, force them out of lane, deal half her HP, go for a trade, maybe lose a quarter on Thresh, a quarter on Lucian, but you really knock Tristana down. It's the only hope Thresh Lucian has. If they can't knock her down far enough, then Nami's going to keep her alive. She'll keep up the sustain, allowing Tristana to farm. And then as they gain levels around level 3, 4, the match really becomes much more even. Nami will keep Trist up, dealing with the extra bully potential that Lucian has. However, Nami is a great counter to Thresh. Thresh lands a hook, Nami just needs to focus her bubble onto Lucian. If she bubbles Lucian, it completely denies the engagement from EDG, and any trade damage just gets out-healed by Nami. Thresh, Lucian are the ones that will be slowly whittled down over time, and they're the ones that have to make the moves, whereas Samsung White's team, they just have to farm, be safe, not get hooked. One big thing Lucian has to do is save his dash. If he doesn't save his dash, that means a Nami bubble is super easy to hit. Throughout the whole lane, he should never be dashing unless it's away from Nami bubble or away from her ultimate. Taking a break from that, look at Jarvan's positioning. He's going to gank a lane that's already pushed. There's no reason for him to be down here to be waiting. It's a really, really hard lane to gank. Can't hit Tristana, she'll just jump out. Nami can protect her if she gets hooked, and Nami just sits back and stays away. You know, it's really hard for them to get onto Nami who they have to, and Tristana's really safe, especially with Nami. He goes and waits middle again, another push lane. He should be going top. He really needs to pick on this Rumble. This should have been his priority from the start. You've got two forms of CC and slows, which allow you to get enough damage to kill Rumble, who is lacking in any form of natural escape. Jarvan can go up there, combo with Maokai, kill him. They just have to be aware of the counter gank, as Rumble does have very high damage in the 2v1 in the 2v2s. So if Kha'Zix was there, probably want to back off. You know, get the ward at the tri-bush, and go for the gank. Unfortunately, Jarvan waits. Rumble now has his level 6. This makes it very, very dangerous for any ganks to happen. I want to point out Maokai's items. He went back to base and bought a Doran's Ring, second item. Doran's Ring doesn't really provide him anything except some minor regen in lane. He's not going to kill Rumble on his own. He just doesn't have the damage to deal with the shield and the slows. He can't keep up. There's no way for Maokai to kill Rumble without Rumble letting himself die. This Doran's Ring should have been a Negatron cloak. When he went up to lane, he had enough money to buy a Negatron cloak and maybe a couple pots, because he did go up there with wards. This Negatron cloak would have helped him so much against Rumble. Not 40 extra magic resist in this lane against somebody who only does magic damage, huge. Here we see Maokai, he goes in, and this is my point, that double Doran's Ring doesn't help him do anything to Rumble. Rumble just toys with him because he knows Kha'Zix is on his way, saves his ultimate until Kha'Zix is in range, uses the ultimate for the slow, chases Maokai down. Maokai's in the long lane, Rumble can chase, keep him slowed. Rumble was never under any threat from Maokai. Whereas if Maokai had picked up a Negatron cloak, he would have been less likely to go for the all-in and try and fight. Could have stayed alive, just been safe. EDG could have got the dragon anyways. Once again, he goes back to base. He buys a catalyst. This is his normal for Maokai's. They're going towards Rod of Ages. We all know that. However, just to point out, catalyst only provides 200 HP. This is very little as opposed to the extra 40 magic resistant Negatron cloak would provide. And I know I harp on this, but Rumble now has his hunting guys. He's gained 15 magic pen, whereas Maokai has only gained 200 HP. It's really a huge difference, and it comes into play in this matchup. And we see it throughout all of Worlds. A single Negatron cloak negates the first 2,600 gold of Rumble. So it's a very good pickup. So right there, Lucian used his dash just to get off some harass. And what happens? Nami turns around with her ult, followed up by a bubble. Thresh got a good hook, he got a good flay, he went in. But in this matchup, Lucian cannot use his dash. If he uses his dash, he gets caught by Nami easily. And that's why this matchup is so hard. EDG at this point have kind of lost bottom lane completely. There's almost nothing that they can do. Doesn't matter if Thresh gets a hook, a flay, an ultimate, whatever. Nami's going to stop Lucian. You know, there's just not enough damage on Lucian Thresh to be able to kill Tristana. And if they don't target Tristana, Tristana rocket or Buster shots Lucian away, saving Nami as well. There's just a lot of dual protection on Samsung White's side that prevent Lucian Thresh from really using their strengths. Now, if they had started from level 1, knocked Tristana down early, kept her down and lower, then they could have had the item advantage, and that would keep them going. But, however, they're not. As it gets pointed out later by the casters, we see that Lucian Thresh helped Jarvan leash at red, and that's what really hurt them in terms of getting to lane for that level 1 bully potential. Up top, we see another gank onto Maokai. With Rumble ahead now, there's just too much damage. Maokai can't live through it. He's really pushing too hard in a losing matchup. The next time we see them fight, we'll actually see Rumble take the fight 1v1. Going into the second dragon, it's going to be something Samsung White really want to look for. It's very easy pickup for them with Rumble so far ahead. He dominates dragon fights. If he's ever ahead in a game, he really dominates dragon fights. It's why it's so essential to knock him down, and it's why Jarvan should have been focusing top from the start. Going into the mid lane matchup, Orianna versus Zilean. So we have a little break to talk about it. It's really a huge just farm fest lane. It's a little rougher for Orianna, not because of the farming, but because Zilean's clear speed is so quick with the double bombs that he's able to wave clear and then speed off to other lanes. The winner of this lane is not the person who out-farms or who gets kills, but who affects side lanes the best. And that's going to be Zilean, at least for the early portions of the match, I mean the first 20 minutes or something. He double bombs, dashes off. We saw it the first time at the First Blood on Maokai. And that's it. Here, Rumble, he really thinks he has him, and it's close. If he had done that equalizer just slightly back more, he still could have got the cutoff. But we do see how Rumble beats Maokai right now. You know, and if Maokai had, if one of those Doran's rings was a Negatron cloak, Maokai could take the fight to Rumble instead. There's a huge amount of resistances. It's something like an extra 25-30% effective HP against Rumble. In bot lane, once again, we see that Lucian did not save his dash, gets caught by Nami. They win the 2v2 again against what's supposed to be a stronger lane ADC, but Tristana Nami is just a really strong combination, especially against Lucian Thresh. There's just not enough damage on Lucian Thresh, and they lose out on sustain. It's much better strength for the bottom. See, watch. Tristana leaps, gets the damage. Lucian gets hit by the Nami ultimate, and then there's the bubble. He used his dash to kill creeps earlier, and if he had kept it up, he could have dodged Nami ultimate and then just walked away. So take away anybody, when you're playing Lucian, make sure you pay attention to who the lane support is and whether or not you should be using your dash. Against Nami or Thresh, somebody who has good CC, it's very much recommended that you save your dash and just use it defensively. Here we see Samsung White. They got a little overconfident. There's no reason they should be down there. They're looking for the blue, they're looking for the blue buff they're looking for the blue buff to get some wards in, but they're going in when people are missing off the map. They don't see Thresh on the map, they don't know where Jarvan is, they don't know where Ori is. They have no vision, and then they walk blindly in. They could have placed a ward into, the side bush, walked away, thrown it over, whatnot. So here's another good point about the Maokai versus Rumble. Look at how much damage Rumble does. He takes out 2/3 of Maokai's HP in a 3v1. Granted, it was a little time before. If Rumble had been left alone, he would have destroyed him. It was a good bait, though. But Samsung White do get the dragon. And I'm going to make a quick point about dragon and top lane, the trades. So a big thing teams like to do is they'll trade a kill on top lane for dragon. And what this does is it gives more gold to the team who takes dragon, but it's about 125, 150, maybe 190 at the most, depending on the timing of it. This is not enough to really create a big window of opportunity in terms of items for a team. It may be push that edge just enough, but more than likely it doesn't have a huge effect just that first dragon. However, getting first blood on the top lane does have a huge effect. It's 400 gold for the top laner plus creep EXP. If done at the right time, you can deny a champion two, maybe even 3 waves of EXP. And this is a huge advantage in the top lane. So taking the top lane kill and trading it for dragon allows you to focus your golden experience into the top lane. It gives you your power in one point and allows you to abuse it rather than spreading it out in a way that's a lot more negligible. The second dragon, however, is worth a lot more, so you really have to make sure you focus on it. By that time you probably have towers down, you're not going to worry too much about lost lane EXP because the laning's over. That trade is much better. Once again, we see EDG out of position. Orianna's farming race when they really need the wave clear middle, and they just give up the tower for free. There's no reason to give up that tower, but they did. So at this point, we see that EDG is up by has 3 towers. Samsung White has 2. Tristana's going to go work at this top one. Tristana's really strong at this point. She's almost untouchable. Maokai can't stop her. They really have to have Lucian there to deal with her. Maybe 2v1 her. She's can't be stopped by one person at the moment without being able to also get away. And we'll see this in a couple minutes when she starts to push this top turret against Maokai. So at this point in the game, EDG really need to start grouping as 5. They've lost several of their lanes, and they need to move into relying on their team comp. The big problem is they're dealing with the disengage. So the best thing EDG can do, force a fight, push middle, push aside, pick a lane, and just go for it. Bot turret might be great. Go through bot turret, rotate through the top jungle, or the blue side jungle of Samsung White. You need lots of wards because you have to watch out for Rumble. But with the right rotations, you can mess them up and get hits on tower. And then look for that engage, that Orianna ball with Jarvan and Maokai. Try and get the fight. If it doesn't happen, run, get out, don't try and keep it going. So I want to point out why Tristana was so aggressive with that. She has red buff, she knows she can kite, she knows her team is coming from the right, and she knows where EDG's team is. If Maokai had tried to go in, Tristana could have taken him 1v1. If Thresh had gone in as well, she could have done her buster shot to knock one of them away, and then flash healed out. Not ideal, but if they had tried to chase when she used the buster shot and tries to run, her team would have come and caught up, and they would have got the 4v2. So that aggressive jump, while most Tristanas would look to just run up and shoot and keep their jump, was really well played because it got free damage onto Maokai, forced him back, and allowed her to take the turret. And the play was made safe because of her team coming up behind her. But back to EDG's ability to win right now. It's really looking rough because Tristana is almost past her entire weak spot. We have Rumble having Leandries, and Kha'Zix is pretty far ahead of Jarvan too. Jarvan has opted for the Sightstone, but since it's second item Sightstone and they're already behind, it makes it not the best pickup. If you're going to go second item Sightstone, you should be picking it up when you're ahead. This allows you to keep up the even more vision and stay ahead. It's not an item to pick up when coming from behind. If you grab it first, then that's fine. First item Sightstone, you don't know what's going on. The laning phase is still going on. It allows you to make good use of those wards. However, let's just state it as second. The only wards you can really place with it are defensive ones. and since it's an inefficient item for combat, you're just putting yourself even more on the defensive by buying it. Coming into this next fight, EDG make a great play here, as do Samsung White as well. EDG out-rotate Samsung White while they're trying to prep for Dragon. They get the free turret middle. Now, EDG have a huge opportunity here. They see Tristana bottom, and there's no way she can get back. They have a 5v4. They could totally have just pushed middle, gone for the inhibitor, let this fall, gone for their huge 5v5 engage team, especially with Samsung White having been stuck in their top jungle, not their top jungle, their blue side jungle. They had the opportunity to essentially 5v1 or 5v2 that middle turret. It was a bit risky because of how strong that Rumble is at the moment. However, at the worst, it would have been a 5v4. Instead, they go back, they do stop Tristana, but I really think this is a point where EDG could have taken control of the game. Because they backed, they lost their opportunity to take out the middle inhibitor turret, as well as allowed Samsung White to get in position for this dragon. And they could have just traded the bot T2 for an attempt. Since they didn't make it, they went after Tristana. They got caught out by Samsung White, who had the vision around dragon. Which is a note to make, Samsung White had been setting up for the vision around dragon, so when EDG ran, they were running through vision. Also, they split up. Orianna was out in front. She should have stayed back with the team. Then she wouldn't have got hurt. They could have gone back and fought for dragon and used their 5v5 potential. Instead, EDG take middle turret, and it's just a trade for dragon. They sacrifice the ability of their strong 5v5 team and just lose out on an opportunity. Now they're trying to make a play here, which is neat, but this is not smart. This is really bad. Samsung White just hit dragon, and they just backed for their item spikes. Rumble picked up Seeker's Arm Guard. Kha'Zix grabbed a pickaxe and a Negatron cloak. Tristana finished her Infinity Edge. There's just such strength on Samsung White, whereas there's nothing on EDG. They have Orianna's the only one who's even. They get spotted out in this dragon pit, and great Nami ult. They get caught. They get just demolished. They don't have the strength in item spikes or in power spikes to fight this right now. Here, they should be running. They know they've already lost, but they're sticking around to fight. They're out of position. Samsung White has them pincered. They're all at half HP. And they go in for the fight. Orianna throws her ultimate from a far range, only hits Rumble, whose ultimate has already been used, which means he's much less of a threat. And it just allows Samsung White to get the cleanup. Now they go for Baron. Fight happens. Tristana just goes hardcore. She knows Zillion's ult is up, so she jumps in. She knows she's so strong. This is actually a little bit of a risky play, but Samsung White, they're very aggressive. And it works out because there was great timing with Zillion. Zillion threw his ult as she was jumping, so there's no range issues. And she just goes in with her strength, knowing Orianna's ult is down, knowing she's stronger than Lucian, and she's full HP and they're not. At this point in the game, this match is pretty much 95% over. There's almost no way EDG can come back. We do see some fights going their way. They make some great plays later on. However, the match is really over. Tristana is too strong. And I'll point this out when the items come back up, but I'll show you. I'll just talk about it. But here we're doing the replay. With the Orianna ult, she's trying, but Rumble's already silenced. He's already got his stuff out. And Maokai's at half HP. Jarvan's weak. He only has Sightstone for defensive items. Lucian Thresher low. They should have just backed off. Then they wouldn't have lost Baron. They could have regrouped and ran back around. They just didn't need to fight that. So right now, pointing out Tristana's items. She's almost on to her third item, which is the Bloodthirster, which is great because there's no armor items on EDG. Tristana with Bloodthirster is really strong, crazy split push force. There's no real worry. This game should be over. Here's where we see a problem. Zillion, he's pushing bottom all by himself, no wards, gets caught out. There's no reason for that. There's absolutely no reason he should be out alone. However, this does let Tristana get a lot of damage and take out the top turret. She clears it in about 10 seconds. Done. So, back to my point. Tristana is so strong, all Samsung White need to do is split push. They could run either a 1-1-3 or a 4-1 and be fine. Tristana will draw at least 2 people. No one can fight her 1v1. She'll kill anybody who tries to go after her. And even if she gets 2v1'd, she has good safety escape. They would have to bring in Thresh and Maokai to keep her locked down. Otherwise, she can just shoot her buster shot, leap away. So, Samsung White, all they need to do, pick a lane, let Tristana push, be as 4 or 3 in the other lanes. And then if they go after Tristana, you have 4 people push in a 4v3, they take a turret. If they try and send one person after Tristana, they just delay and wait. Tristana takes another turret and another objective. All the strength is on Samsung White with this gold lead, with their disengaged comp, and with Tristana already hitting her hyper carry spikes. Unfortunately, this is not what they do. They kind of dilly-dally around. We saw Zillion get caught. We'll see Rumble Zillion get caught again. Orianna tries to get a snipe kill onto Nami. It's really close, but not quite. But now with her ultimate down, this is an opportunity for Samsung White to be real bullies. Rumble can take the bottom. He's running up, but he has his TP. Free turrets there. EDG can't fight right now. With Orianna's ultimate down, there's nothing they can do. Samsung White just need to push, not pansy around like they're doing. Like they could go middle and take out the turret. They're really just delaying this game for no reason. What EDG can do to come back at this point is not a lot. It's pretty rough for them with Tristana as strong as she is. They need to delay this game. They need to just sit back. They need to stay as 5. Try and find picks. Get the wards out. The only chance they're going to have is when Orianna is able to reach the point of one-shotting Orianna, or at least getting close to one shot. Just to demonstrate how far ahead Samsung White is here we see Rumble in a 3v1, and he's going to kill Orianna. He's just got so much damage, especially with all that magic pen. It's huge. They're just that far ahead. Samsung White, now they're going to go take middle. See, it took 3 people on 2 for EDG to take out bottom, and Samsung White are blowing something else. They really should be taking this middle turret here, or they should be taking top. They're not split pushing correctly. They're not doing it as a team. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing on Samsung White's side. Fortunately for them, because Tristana is so strong, because they are ahead, it's almost solo queue-esque, where they just screw around a bit and hope they don't make any major mistakes. Looking over to EDG's items, we do see Spectre's Cowls coming out, which is good. Negatron Cloak on Lucian. Thresh, however, is working towards a Mikhail's Crucible instead of a Locket. And there's no Locket on Maokai or Jarvan. Really would love to have seen it this game. Maybe in place of Jarvan's Sightstone, Thresh going for it early instead of the Mikhail's. Or maybe even before he gets Face of the Mountain, but that's debatable. Face of the Mountain is really good for that item path. Or a Locket would have helped hugely against Rumble, hugely against Zillion. Would have stopped some of Kha'Zix's damage, would have stopped some of Tristana's burst abilities for the kills, and would help against Nami too. Everybody on Samsung White's team does at least some magic damage, with Rumble doing massive AoE that Locket is absolutely great against. So once again, we see Rumble getting caught out. Samsung White, they're not playing as a team. They're just kind of doing their own things. You know, see with Tristana bottom right here, Rumble should have just warded Baron, backed off, gone to middle as the 4. But here we see Zillion's back, Rumble's way off to the side. Samsung White, they are just incredible individual players, and it's the first game of the the worlds, so there's some slack to be cut. But there's just lots of places where they're messing up. However, Tristana is doing her split push. No one can stop her. We see her take a tower. We see her, she shoots back Maokai, takes the tower, fights Maokai. She's just too strong for EDG to deal with, and she continues to get stronger with this split pushing. I like to say there's a lot more to say about this game, but there really isn't. Kind of waiting for the fights where Samsung White make huge mistakes to show up to talk about them. But for the most part, this whole past 4 or 5 minutes is dragging on without need. Samsung White could have been closing this game out. They could have been pushing really hard for it. And the longer this game goes on, the harder it becomes for them. EDG has this huge 5v5 team fight strength, and once defensive items start to come in for Jarvan and Maokai, and even Thresh, they'll be able to survive the punishing power of Rumble, of Tristana, to allow Orianna and Lucian to get their damage out. Samsung White has no tank line, they're relying all on positioning skill. So EDG can potentially brute force their way into the win if the game were to go on too long. We all know 5 item, 6 item Maokai really doesn't number on ADCs, especially once Thornmail comes into play. And we know that Orianna, when she hits her triple item spike, and then even getting the 4th item, that she can do 3/4 of a champion's damage in one combo. And you combine that with the right Jarvan ult, get the lockup with Maokai, Tristana can just die. And then Samsung White lose all their sustained damage. So that's essentially EDG's way back into this game, is to farm as much as they can, don't let Samsung White get Baron, just delay. Unfortunately, fortunately for them, they do have the wave clear. Maokai saplings, Ori Ball can easily keep the waves down, delay at turrets, and Lucian can use his ultimate as a last resort. Samsung White do not have much poke. Once again, EDG trying to force something. Jarvan gets caught out, and this is bad. Jarvan getting caught out essentially gives up Baron. He's forced back. Orianna, she uses her ultimate. Let's see. Will Samsung White know that they can go against Baron? Go fight Baron with Jarvan low, pushed out, with Orianna ultimate down. This really gives them a free opportunity. If Orianna had had her ultimate somewhere in this, Maokai could have jumped into Baron. They could have got him stuck at the pit. Just needed to hold on to it for a better opportunity. They do stop the Baron, however. So very good for EDG, and this shows the prowess of their 5v5 fight. They have a good 5v5 fight, and since Nami ultimate was used, Rumble ultimate was used, Samsung White do not have a way to stop if they try and 5v5. As we continue, we see Tristana. She's still doing essentially what she wants. They're playing around Baron, which is fine. What would be neat to see is Tristana shooting it over the wall, maybe with Kha'Zix jumping in after they clear it, try and sneak it. They should be able to kill it together, especially if Nami's in the backside throwing heals over the wall or something. Would allow them a cheeky way to remove it from the map. However, what they really should be doing is just having 4 people push mid and Tristana push bottom. There's an open inhibitor in this game, and they're not taking advantage of it. There's an 11k lead. They need to push. Samsung White are just not closing out this match. Game should have been over by now, maybe even 4 minutes ago. Instead, they're going back to Baron, and they do get good positioning on it, but it's very dangerous against EDG's team, and as we'll see, here they come in. Lots of damage gets put out. And watch where Imp is. Bam. Imp's way too far ahead. Tristana goes down. EDG come and clean this up. So Samsung White essentially had this fight with Baron. Baron was already dead before the fight even happened. And they still come out and lose it. When we'll see the replay, we'll see exactly what Tristana did that made it so bad. And that's all EDG need to do. If they can take out Tristana, they take out all of Samsung White's sustained damage. The tankiness of Maokai will be able to block out Kha'Zix, be able to block out Rumble. So here we see Tristana. She jumps over to the side all by herself, too far away from Zilean for the ultimate. Just gets nuked down, and that's it. Rumble's ultimate has been used. Maokai's tanking Zilean and Kha'Zix. Lucian's just cleaning up. This is Samsung White. This is what Samsung White essentially get for screwing around. If they had just been split pushing, they could have ignored Baron, taken objectives, really forced EDG into a corner. They have the bottom inhibitor open, which is farthest away from Baron. They have used Tristana to split push, kept the other team close at the mid turret. She could have gone for the inhibitor. They could have taken mid turret when they try and peel off to attack Tristana. Then they would have had a closer push. They could have 4 on the middle inhibitor turret, and then Tristana on the bottom. It was a very easy way for them to win if they had just been playing that way. Unfortunately, they try Baron, they go to force it. EDG show how strong their team is 5v5. Even though Samsung White were low, a little bit low from Baron, they still had Baron and lost the 5v5. A big part of this is Tristana going crazy, losing all of Samsung White's damage. Here we see Samsung White are finally pushing the objective. They're like, alright guys, we lost. We gotta do something. This should have happened ages ago. Still to point out, there's still no locket on EDG's side. This would have been an amazing pickup, as mentioned before. However, we do see Thresh is going to Mikhail's. Really no reason for him to be going to Mikhail's in this match. The only thing he can use it on is Nami's bubble, and Lucian should never be getting hit by that. There's really no reason for him to be getting hit by that, and if somebody else is getting hit with Nami bubble, then that's alright. Orianna's doubtful going to be the target. Jarvan Maokai tank. Lucian needs to just dash away from it. Something he has to do is stay away from the bubble, which he wasn't doing in the beginning of the game. So instead of Mikhail's, Thresh should have been going for a locket. It would have allowed him more personal tankiness. It would have given his team a lot more tankiness. It would have just been overall the better choice. Going to talk about what EDG could have done to win this game is they really lost out on the early game. Maokai's item purchases against Rumble were, in my opinion, bad. A single Negatron cloak would have made a huge amount of difference instead of that second Thorns ring. There really is not a chance for Maokai to kill Rumble unless Rumble makes the mistake of letting himself get killed. When Rumble notices he's low, tosses on a scrap shield, slows, just runs away from Maokai. If he sees he's losing, he has the ability to get out easily. Whereas Maokai cannot run away from Rumble. Maokai needs the defenses, he needs to make sure he can't get killed, and then just scale into the better champion. Rumble controls the early and mid game, Maokai turns into a hyper tank later. In the bot lane, we had a lot of problems with Lucian, as mentioned before. That was a lane that EDG potentially could have taken control of. I really like Tristana and Nami as the better champions in this matchup. However, Lucian Thresh do have the ability to take the win in the fight. If at level 1, instead of helping Jarvan leash, they had been there to rush for the level 2, they could have pushed them out. At level 1, with either Flay or Hook, Thresh and Lucian could have just charged at Tristana and pushed her away. Kept her away from creeps, done some damage, put her on the defensive early. If Thresh could have got a good hook or a Flay, Lucian could have got a lot of damage, they could have kept her back. I'll come back to that. It's a good engage by EDG, they do a lot of damage, and then here Tristana goes wild. She tries to jump in, once again all by herself, and she gets nuked down. There wasn't really a need for that. She could have stayed around and just done pot shots, taken out people, then Samsung White sustained damage. However, in the end, it does work out for Samsung White. Their whole team is ahead. That since Tristana was able to get Lucian down, they can push in. If Tristana had not been able to kill Lucian there, Lucian would have turned this fight around, and they just would have won. However, here's where Samsung White goes, and they take the win. Now they're fighting 4v2, and they win. And that's really it to the game. So I'm going to go back to my point with EDG in the bot lane. If Thresh had gotten a hook or a flay at level 1 onto Tristana, they could have got maybe half her HP. Okay, I guess I remember this wrong. My bad, this is not where they win. It's the next fight at the bottom, or no, the top. But this did allow them to get the inhibitor, and it's something they needed. And it's good timing because next is Dragon, next is Baron. Samsung White will... Now they can essentially get Baron for free with the bottom pressure. And if they had done this before, much earlier on, they could have gotten that second Baron for free without allowing EDG to come back and get a significant amount of gold and time delay. With the bot lane, though, if Thresh had gotten a hook or a flay, Lucian could have gotten his Q, gotten his double passive, gotten some shots on her, done a lot of damage, maybe taken Tristana to half HP. This would then allow them to get level 2 first, and then go again for the all-in right after that. If they had gotten level 2 and they got the flay and the hook and the double passives from Lucian, they could have kept Tristana down from the start, and then kept bullying her to keep her down so that Samsung White can't fight. Even though Nami would sustain, the constant harassment would keep Tristana low enough that they wouldn't have the ability to go all in, to fight, to trade. But the key to this is getting that damage down at level 1 and 2. EDG didn't do it, and therefore, once level 3 hit, Samsung White's Tristana and Nami were able to take control of the lane. This was even further accentuated by Lucian using his dashes at very bad times. Instead of using them defensively, he allowed himself to get hit by Nami twice with her ultimate, twice with the bubble, and both times it ended up with the 2v2 kills going to Samsung White. Jarvan, also in the early game, should have been focusing on Rumble. If they had kept him down, it would have allowed them to have much better objective control. It would have allowed Maokai to get his items faster and to scale and deal with this Tristana. Maokai here is building a second Banshee's Veil, or is building a second Negatron Cloak, probably going into Banshee's Veil. Really don't like this pickup. Maokai is tanky enough at this point that the only one who's going to kill him is Tristana. He should probably be grabbing a Thornmail and dealing with her. It's unlikely that Rumble or Zillion are really going to provide a huge threat against him. So if Jarvan had focused, Maokai would have been able to get his items. He's the one who has to basically be that front wall, that line that deals with Samsung White's burst with their disengage, and then deals with Tristana afterwards. However, Jarvan didn't do anything with his early game power, and it really came to bite EDG in the back. Here we see Samsung White took Baron with the bottom inhibitor. They just wait. It's essentially free at that point in the game. Push top, going for the win. And that's going to be the end. Some ending notes. Samsung White really kind of screwed around this game. If I want you to take anything from this game, it's that Samsung White crafted a great team against the engaged comp of EDG. It really put EDG on the back foot and forced them to be the ones to make the moves. And if they made it wrong, then Samsung White's team was able to capitalize on that, disengage, turn around, get kills. The second point of 3 that I'd like to make is really know your bot lane matchups. Especially against hyper carries like Tristana, you have to know how to punish her, no matter who she has as a support, no matter who you have on your own. You really got to know what your plan is to do against hyper carries. Lucian Thresh, they needed that level 1, they needed that level 2, they had to take control early, they didn't. Tristana carried the game from there. The third point that I want you to take away from this game is Samsung White screwed around a lot. They could have ended this game 10 minutes ago, 12, something, quite a while ago. If they had just had Tristana split push and had their team do a 4-man middle while she took a side lane, they could have easily kept EDG down. They could have forced them to send 2 people to deal with Tristana, allowing for the 4v3 where they could have dived to turret and got kills, or just pushed the turret and took it down. This would have allowed faster objective pushing. It would have prevented that whole Baron fight that went on that they lost. It was just the way to close out the game quicker. Force the objectives down, focus on them, do what you can. Don't worry about the fights. League of Legends objectives are super important. If Samsung White had taken that open inhibitor, then we see them going to the Baron like they did at the 3rd Baron, get it for free, push another lane and win. That could have happened 10 minutes ago instead of at the ending of this game. Anyways, I hope it was interesting enough and that you garnered some newfound knowledge. And thank you for watching. My website can be found in the notes, as well as links to the portal page for notes for all of the teams who made it to quarterfinals in the Worlds, and any videos as they come out. Once again, this is Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, thanking you for watching. Take care.